Chapter 5. Even in wintertime, Yellowstone was laced by the greenness of the surrounding wheat and fava bean fields. Yellow wildflowers were scattered across the green carpet like solitary souls still searching for their destiny. The water of the Dongjing River lay calm and pensive, as if quietly dreaming about the coming spring. Farmers flocked to the market square to trade goods for the new year, a week away. The narrow streets of Yellowstone became filled with mules carrying food and vegetables. Bicycles strained beneath the double weight of two riders, and noisy tractors fought their way among crowds of people carrying sacks of produce slung over their shoulders. One morning, Teacher Land visited our home with the results of our first county-wide exam. I had scored 100% in all 4 subjects. He and Mom couldn't stop smiling, and my sisters swarmed, fighting to get a glimpse of the report card. Only 2 students made that score in the whole county of Putian, Land said, beaming happily, for my distinction had made him one of the teachers of the year. I became an instant star among the neighbors. There were some warmer glances and sweeter greetings for me. It was both liberating and a little intoxicating. I felt glorified. I was no longer just another one of those hopeless descendants of the old ruling class who ended up becoming a carpenter, a blacksmith, or a nobody, buried in the guilt and shame of his fathers. I shone, despite their efforts to snuff me out. Early in the morning on New Year's Day, I helped Mom prepare all kinds of sacrifices before our makeshift shrine of numerous gods. There was Buddha, his kitchen god, the earth god, rice god, water god, and all our dead ancestors. It was pretty much like the administration of a government, Mom explained. There were local gods, provincial gods, and the big Buddha on top. She had designated a spot for each with different displays of food as sacrifices. There were chicken, fish, shrimp, clams, crabs, whole piglets painted in red, greasy ducks, colored eggs, wine, peaches, pears, bananas, rice, and a lot of incense and paper money to burn. With incense clutched in her hands, Mom knelt and said the prayers. I waited on the side and kowtowed as many as 50 to 100 times before each god, doing extras for my sisters and brother. I couldn't remember how I had gotten into the business of kowtowing for my siblings. All I knew was that I was a little more religious than they were. I had always been afraid of ghosts and believed in the power of good gods. I prayed like a monk and didn't mind bending down on my skinny knees to kowtow as often as Mom thought appropriate, usually imagining 100 to be her lucky number. By the end of the ceremonies, though my back and knees ached, I was quietly content with the prospect of having bought my insurance with gods at all levels for the new year to come. I told my sisters and brother that I had also done favors before the gods in their stead and had them pay me back in monetary terms. They believed enough to pay me 5 fin each. For breakfast on New Year's Day, long, thin, handmade noodles were prepared, served in elegant little bowls and decorated on top with slices of fried egg, marinated meat, fried peanuts, oysters, crispy seaweed, and lightly sautéed, crunchy snow peas. Long noodles promised longevity. The word oysters in my local dialect meant alive. Eggs were round and perfect. Peanuts indicated countless offspring, and if you twisted the pronunciation of seaweed a little, it sounded a lot like the word that meant fortune. I fought down the long noodles, donned a new jacket that Mom had tailored herself, and ran off to offer New Year's greetings to our neighbors. I clasped my hands, bowed my head, and wished wealth to the garlic-nosed Liang Q, an old man with 7 sons who made a living selling cigarettes to children behind closed doors at a huge markup. He wiped his big, dripping nose and threw me a cigarette with dark tobacco in it. "Thanks, and Happy New Year, young fella. Have a smoke," he said. "It's not one of those moldy ones, is it?" I teased as I pocketed it. He was known to pass the kids rotten products. Since the children were smoking secretly, they never complained. Only on New Year's Day could I get away with a joke like that. I crossed the bridge to greet the white-haired country doctor, who peered at me through his thick glasses, trying to figure out who I was. "I'm the younger son of the Chens," I said. He nodded, pointed with his cane at the seat next to him, and offered some tea. I politely told him I had just had breakfast. He asked how my grandpa was. "He's gone," I said. I couldn't believe how forgetful the doctor was. Only half a year ago, he had been telling us that Grandpa didn't have long to live. "Oh, I'm sorry, but the living has got to go on. Ain't that right?" "Right, Doctor. Happy New Year." He nodded in silence and watched me run off down the dirt road. It was a tradition that for good luck you should greet as many people as you could on New Year's Day. To me, it was the easiest way to score brownie points with the people, for they were in the best of spirits then, and you could get a lot of goodwill for nothing. By noon, I had greeted no fewer than 50 people. There was a brigade leader, the neighborly teacher Lan, the kind tailor who sometimes let Mom use his sewing machine, the blacksmith who made good farming tools for us, and the locksmith who stuttered when he became excited. His son had gone to Tsinghua University in Beijing, the equivalent of MIT. He had the hardest time saying the name and always ended up stuttering, Tsinghua University. By the time he did the third hap, hap, hap of his unfinished Happy New Year greeting, I was long gone. When I got home for lunch, our living room was already filled with well-wishers. Dad was holding court, busily pouring hot tea and lighting the water pipe for his visitors. I often thought that if Dad hadn't been the unfortunate son of a landlord, he probably would have ended up being one of the communist leaders. He was a big man who commanded attention the moment he entered a room. Dad loved laughing and could charm your boots off. But when he was angry, his temper thundered and his tongue lashed out mercilessly. He was a natural, a dramatic leader in a sleepy little town like Yellowstone. The commune leaders put him down like trash. Bad neighbors and ignorant militiamen spat in his direction when they passed him in the street. But villagers from the surrounding towns and remote farms still came to him for all sorts of advice. They came in groups of 5 and 10 and treated Dad as if he were still the son of an old family that had once headed the local gentility. He wrote persuasive letters for those whose relatives resided in rich places like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, helping them to squeeze money from their rich relatives. Defenseless widows sought his aid in drawing up complaints about neighbors who had encroached on their properties and families who had abandoned them. They paid Dad with money or a sack of rice or yams, but a lot of advice was offered free with a smile. Gradually, Dad's reputation spread, with villagers dropping by daily when they were in town to shop. They came for a cup of hot tea, a puff on the water pipe, or just to rest their feet. If Dad wasn't away at a reform camp, by 11 every morning the living room was always full of all sorts of personalities. Dad felt comfortable in the role and presided over the affairs of others like an unpaid civil servant. The only rule was that there was to be no spitting on the clean floor, which Mom scrubbed daily. On this special day, all the friendly, familiar faces were crowded into our sun-drenched living room, bubbling with excitement as they lit their good cigarettes. I sat there, as I had for many years, listening to Dad's friends doing their New Year's version of a daily chat for a little bit. But on New Year's Day, I felt a need for something more festive and entertaining. Only there wasn't much I could do. I could just see my enemies, Han, Kuei, and Wang, chomping cigarettes and lurking among the crowds, plotting their revenge against me. And I couldn't fight that day. It would be bad luck. After lunch, when my brother Chen was out playing poker, and my sisters had long since gone out giggling with their friends, doing whatever girls did, I told Mom I was heading out to a basketball game at school. "I didn't hear about a game there," Mom said. "Yeah, well, it should be starting soon," I lied and streaked out the door. I walked cautiously along the small path meandering among the wheat and sugarcane fields, staying away from the crowded streets, which were now filled to the brim with villagers who had flocked to town for the new year. It was an event locally known as Wu Chun, or Spring Outing. They came in groups of boys and girls, nicely dressed in new and colorful outfits. They sang, laughed, flirted, and ogled at each other. The spring, now ripening with blossoms, seemed to stir a nameless agitation among the youngsters, and to give an added luster to the world. I envied the simplicity of their lives. Why was mine so damned complicated? Soon I was alone, looking for a shortcut to the secret gambling pits somewhere among the tall grass or the tall sugarcane fields. Children my age whispered about them and raved over the heroism of some of the big-time winners whenever the news mysteriously found its way out of the pit. But none dared venture near the place. A few really bad older boys from our neighborhood were said to make their homes there during the whole New Year's holiday. If I couldn't have fun in normal places, then I was determined to find something else to do, watching the game or even running errands for those bad boys. I had only brought half a won with me. That way, if they wanted me in the game, I wouldn't have too much to lose. I was mentally prepared for any roughing up that night that might occur. I checked over my shoulder to make sure no one was following me, then slipped into the sugarcane field. The leaves were thick and sharp. I ducked beneath them and walked with bent knees toward the heart of the field. After 10 minutes, I heard vague, hushed voices. Then I suddenly saw lights and a clearing ahead of me. 20 yards of sugarcane had been felled and trampled down, and there were at least 24 young people sitting at tables, squatting and standing in clusters around the cleared area. I jumped out quickly, and they all froze. Their angry faces stared at me as if I had already overstayed my welcome. The only thing moving was the cigarette smoke spiraling over their heads. It was a perfect group picture of the local criminal elite in full swing. "What are you doing here, you little punk? I thought you were a good mama's boy. This is no place for you." Mo Gong, the local shoemaker's son, barked at me. His diction was crude, his tone menacing. His nostrils flared as he threw his cigarette butt at me. "Get out of here!" In the hierarchy of the local criminal elite, he easily took the top spot. He once cut his enemy's shoulder open with a sharp knife meant for trimming rubber-soled shoes. Yeah, get out of here, another member of the elite roared. I covered my head with my arms like a surrendering war criminal and moved slowly around the edge. Mogong took a few steps and threw me to the ground, which was covered in the springy crushed sugarcane. He sat on me, twisted my arm behind my back, and demanded, "Who sent you here?" "Nobody. I just wanted to see what's going on." My nose was being ground against his muddy leather boots. "Who told you where we were?" "I found my way here." "Liar!" He forced my head harder against the ground. It smelled like the pig manure used as fertilizer. "Wait, Mogong, let go of him." I heard a calm voice say from above me. It sounded like Chen, the son of the local banker, the brains behind all the scandals in the recent history of Yellowstone. Mogong did as he was told, but not before kicking me once more on the behind. I got up and dusted the dirt off my new coat. Chen grabbed Mogong and pulled him aside. "Don't hurt him too much, or he'll tell the commune leader and we'll be in trouble," I heard Chen whisper. Then he turned around and grabbed my shoulder. "I'll let you stay, but don't come back tomorrow and don't tell anyone about this place. If you do, I'll have Mogong make you a useless cripple," he warned, his eyes unmoving. "I just want to watch, that's all." "Quiet, and I want your mouth shut while you watch. Hear me?" I remained gratefully quiet as I stood far behind the circle. Chen took his place at the head of one of the tables. It was a simple poker game played by 4, 2 against 2. The starting bet was half a won, which would only give me one shot if I were to jump in. 2 minutes into the game, Chen and his partner Mogong started making faces, blowing their noses and crackling their knuckles. They were playing against a couple of out-of-town village boys who didn't know their sign language. Soon the villagers were losing fast, and they wanted out. "Can't do that in this town." Mogong put his dirty palm on their money. "Says who?" The villagers were a bit taller than they were. "You guys don't play fair. We're leaving," one of the villagers said as he pushed Mogong's hand away and grabbed the money. "We said at the beginning that the game is finished only when you're empty." "I don't think you're empty," Chen said coolly. "Sit down." "What's this? Are you guys trying to make us stay?" The villagers stepped together, back to back. Chen and Mogong were also on their feet now. I saw Chen make another one of his faces. Then he and Mogong were on top of them. Fights must have been common in this place, because the people at the other tables didn't even turn around. "Quiet, you guys! Keep it down!" they shouted. The 4 wrestled on the ground, seemingly inseparable. They went on wrestling like that for 5 minutes until the pile of money was scattered all over the place. Whenever Chen rolled over to face me, he winked at me, gesturing towards the money, and went on fighting. Finally, I got his message. I looked around and kicked the wads of money between the cracks of trampled sugarcane, where they were hidden among the dense leaves. When the villagers kicked off their shoes, I picked them up and threw them into the fields while they weren't looking. It was over when they were too tired to fight anymore. The 2 villagers stumbled around dizzily, looking for their money and shoes, finding neither. Complaining and cursing, they walked out of the pit, never looking back. As soon as the villagers were out of sight, Chen and Mogong burst into laughter. Their faces were covered with mud and bloody cuts, their clothes torn. They squatted down, looking for the hidden bills. They collected 40 or 50 won in total. "Here, take this." Chen stuffed a bunch of small bills into my hands. "I don't want any." "Fine, then you don't get any." "You guys are ruthless," I said. "Hey, you weren't too bad yourself. I saw you kick the money and throw the shoes away, Sin said with a smile and pinched my ear. As I made my way home, I found myself smiling. Those guys were rough, but likable. They were natural and upfront, no hidden emotions. It would be great to learn to smoke, drink, and gamble, and be their friend. I could imagine my enemies' faces. They'd look like spineless little rascals compared to these boys.